100 elaborate displays depicting the Vaishnava philosophy and pastimes of Lord Krishna had never been before seen. The theistic exhibition created a sensation, and thousands attended it daily. In that same year, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had taken about 40 disciples on a parikrama all over India, a tour featuring many public lectures and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's meeting with important men. By 1932, he had three presses in different parts of India, printing 6 journals in various Indian dialects. In Calcutta, a politician had asked Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati how he could possibly print his Narodiya Prakasho as a daily newspaper. No, sorry, Nodia Prakasho as a daily newspaper. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had replied that it was not so amazing if one considered that in Calcutta alone there were almost half a dozen ordinary daily newspapers, although Calcutta was but one city amongst all the cities of India. India was but one nation among many nations on the earth. The earth was but an insignificant planet amidst all the other planets in the universe. This universe was one amongst universes so numerous that each was like a single mustard seed in a big bag of mustard seeds, and the entire material creation was only a small fraction of the creation of earth. Nodia Prakasho was not printing the news of Calcutta or art, but news from the unlimited spiritual sky, which is much greater than all material worlds combined. So, if daily Calcutta newspapers could report limited earthly tidings, then small wonder that Nodia Prakasha could appear daily. In fact, a newspaper about spiritual world could be printed every moment, where there are not a shortage of interested readers. One of the Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's publication was in English, The Harmonist, and it advertised the Vrindavana Parikrama of 1932. So, Prabhuji, I'm stopping here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It's amazing, just a little bit of transcendental sound vibration. So we've just been listening to Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita, and just a little bit of that transcendental sound vibration is so wonderful because it opens up a different perspective, and that is the business of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to open up, widen, expand our perspective on our existence, and to break through the very strong conditioning that we experience. So with that in mind, we will go to the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in 4th canto, chapter 18 texts. We're going to deal with 2 texts, one without purport and the second one has purport. So that's texts 12 and 13. So that's 4:18, 12 and 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 12. Iti priyam hitam vakyam bhuva adhaya bhupati vatsam kritva manum panav aduhat sakalo shadhi. Translation. After hearing the auspicious and pleasing words of the planet Earth, the king accepted them. He then transformed Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, keeping them in his cupped hands. Text number 13. Tata parecha sarvatra saram adhadate budha tatonyecha yata kamam duduhu pritu bhavitam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earthly planet. Indeed, everyone took this opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from the planet Earth. Srila Prabhupada's purport: the planet Earth is also called Vasundhara. The word Vasu means wealth and Dhara means one who holds. All creatures within the earth fulfill the necessities required for human beings. All creatures, I'll read that again, please. All creatures within the earth fulfill the necessities required for human beings, and all living entities can be taken out of the earth by the proper means. As suggested by the planet Earth and accepted and initiated by King Prithu, whatever is taken from the earth, either from the mines, from the surface of the globe, or from the atmosphere, should always be considered the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be used for Yaga, Lord Vishnu. As soon as the process of Yagya is stopped, the earth will withhold all productions, vegetables, trees, plants, fruits, flowers, other agricultural products and minerals. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the process of Yagya was instituted from the beginning of creation. By the regular performance of Yagya, the equal distribution of wealth, and the restriction of sense gratification, so that's those things, I'll read that again. By the regular performance of Yagya, the equal distribution of wealth, and the restriction of sense gratification, the entire world will be made peaceful and prosperous. It's interesting where Srila Prabhupada makes this statement that sense gratification is seen as that's if you got lots of sense gratification, that's prosperous, but it's not at all the way that Srila Prabhupada is presenting it. Distribution of wealth and the restriction of sense gratification. So the wealth is going to be distributed, but the sense gratification is going to be restricted. Interesting way of organizing the world. Huh? The entire world will be made peaceful and prosperous. As already mentioned, in this age of Kali, this simple performance of Sankirtan Yagya, the holding of festivals as initiated by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, should be introduced in every town and village. Intelligent men should encourage the performance of Sankirtan Yagya by their personal behavior. This means that they should follow the process of austerity by restricting themselves from illicit sex life, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. If the intelligent men or the brahmanas of society would follow the rules and regulations, certainly the entire face of this present world, which is in such chaotic condition, would change, and people would be happy and prosperous. Om Ganati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master is forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Translations once more. Text number 12. After hearing the auspicious and pleasing words of the planet Earth, the king accepted them. He then transformed Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, keeping them in his cupped hands. Others, text number 13, others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earth planet. Indeed, everyone took this opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from the planet Earth. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tattadevi tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanuvartate, I think the last line. Whatever actions are performed by a great person, common men follow in their footsteps. And whatever standards they set by exemplary act, all the world pursues. So King Prithu has set the example, and he's gone to great pains to make suitable arrangements for everyone. And then others could follow in that process. The verses leading up to this verse, I had a look at them last night, and we were just trying to get some context. So in the 5th verse, it says, the simple formula for successful human society, follow guidance of liberated souls. Isn't that amazing? That is the proper guidance, instead of conditioned soul. So the conditioned souls are affected by 4 defects. We know the propensity to cheat, to be illusion, senses are imperfect, and to commit mistakes. Whereas the liberated souls are free from such defects. Because as we heard from the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, there's no dearth of availability of knowledge and understanding and descriptions of the supreme realm of the spiritual world. And material life finds it very difficult to accommodate that and thinks, how can you speak on a religious activity? You surely run out of things to say. But then we heard how that vision of reality is not actually the reality, but it is the illusion. We're thinking the material existence, I was going to say the material world, but we hardly have any idea of the material world per se, the whole cosmic manifestation. But we're more or less captivated and concerned about this tiny little Earth planet that we're scrambling around on, in whatever country we're on or in, and whatever city or location or locality in that city or suburb or wherever we may be. So we don't realize that our consciousness is so shrunken, it's so petty, that we have no idea of what is actually the existential situation of all the living entities. So this is quite an amazing thing. This is the power of Maya. This is the Maya, that she's able to bewilder us into thinking that we are very important and that we will come up with all the answers to all the difficulties. So that is not meeting with much success. We see in that verse, in the 5th verse, Prabhupada spoke about this, that to find the success, we should follow in the footsteps of the liberated souls, because they know things as they are. Srimad Bhagavatam, in the beginning, the 2nd verse of the Bhagavatam, it says that this knowledge is distinguishing reality from illusion for the welfare of all. And that's the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam. It's interested in the welfare of all living entities. It is established in the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the material world is a temporary manifestation for the living entity to enact their various desires for independent enjoyment, existence, and finish up their business here in due course of time. And even as we say things like that, in due course of time, what a statement, actually. It's a massive statement, small in one sense, massive in another. In due course of time, it may take a few births, it may take a few millennium, it may take practically eternally. Nichabada, the living entity, is described as. So following the guidance of liberated souls is the major message of the Bhagavatam, to take shelter. And due to being very puffed up by our limited abilities, we think that we can come to gain the answers to all our positions, all our difficulties that we're faced with. But Prabhupada said in that fifth verse that they're sure to fail. Why? Because we're being led by other blind persons. And when one lot of blind people say, well, I'll be your leader, and the other blind people follow such a blind leader, the result is that everyone falls in a ditch. That's to be expected. So we can see, if we're a little thoughtful and a little penetrative in our vision, how everyone is struggling to try and overcome the difficulties. Daivahiye shagunamai mama maya duratjaya mami veye prapadyante. Losing the last lines this morning, but that's just the way of the conditioned soul. Daivahiye shagunamai mama maya duratjaya mami veye prapadyante mayamitam tarantate. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome, but those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this surrendering process is there, and the surrendering is to the Supreme Lord via the medium of the acharyas, by the medium of the bona fide spiritual masters, the enlightened souls. That is the way. If we follow that path, Mahajana Yena Gata Sapanta, we follow the path of the great Mahajans, then we can get clarity around what is real and what is not, what is temporary, what is asat, and what is sat. And this is for the benefit of all living beings. As I said, one foolish person is standing out, I will be your leader. Elect me and we'll come to we'll satisfy all the difficulties. In the next verse, in text 6, all necessities are meant to be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through yajna to Vishnu. This is established at the very beginning of creation. The Lord sent forth hosts of men and demigods and told them to be satisfied by the performance of yajna. And the arrangement is made that all the necessities of life will be given, but you have to understand how to perform these different yajnas and understand who should perform them, who should organize them, who should be benefited by them, the whole culture of society. And Bhagavatam in the second chapter explains Kamashana Indriya Pritiya Labo Jivetayavata Jivasya Tattva Jignasha Na Arto Yas Cheha Karma Bhi. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life for self-preservation, since the human form of life is meant for inquiring into the absolute truth. Na arto ye Narto yas chiha karma bhi. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So these wonderful verses establish the reality. Life's desires should not be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life and self-preservation. A healthy life means, in other places, Srila Prabhupada states, the living entity should eat sumptuously. It's not that we should simply starve. We're not talking like that. That is, the whole pastime here is Prithu Maharaj milking the earth to provide what is required for the proper function of human and all the other levels of society, how it should be put in place. The animals should eat lovely, beautiful grasses, and maybe the corn shafts that are taken off. When humans have taken, then the animals can take what is left, if you like that. So all the arrangement is made through the performance of yagya, and everyone can be satisfied. And the goal of life is established very clearly. It's not simply to milk the Mother Earth and milk her and milk her and milk her and then kill her. Just see how fallen we've become. Shastra explains that the cow is like, and there are different cows, Mother Earth, and the cow, and so many mothers are there. So they're meant to be respected and to work interdependently with all the other aspects. So Ishavashamidam Sarvam, Krishna is in the form of the Upanishads, he states in Sri Upanishad, Ishavashamidam Sarvam. Everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should only accept for oneself those things which are set aside as one's quota, and not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Who do they belong to? The Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord is giving to all other living entities in whatever species of life. So it belongs to the Supreme, and then he is given to his other children. So our business as children of God is not to usurp the other items from all the other living entities and think that this is the goal of life, for me to exploit the resources of everyone and everything. So this is not a great position to be in. So this is, we can see how this goal of life has been lost, and due to being guided by blind persons, we lose sight of the goal, the actual goal. And the goal is so wonderful because it is not just, oh, the goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. Yes, but the goal also is to live a wonderful life on this planet Earth. As we were saying, to eat sumptuously, Prabhupada says, not to eat luxuriously, not that you eat ghee and fried foods and rich things every day. Somebody mentioned yesterday that, again, simple formula Prabhupada gave, just Prabhupada was so wonderfully expert in giving everything in very simple ways sometimes. He said, we eat very simply throughout the week. This is a general formula. So eat very simply during the week, and then Sunday feast. So once a week, you can eat very luxuriously or very opulently. But generally, the idea is to eat. Why? Because we want to restrict sense gratification? No, because it will be healthy. It will be good for you. You go ahead. We are very thick in the brain. Prabhupada said the brain is filled with cow dung. So that we don't know what is good for ourselves. And therefore, we keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. So all the necessities are provided by Mother Earth, and they all have their proper application. And we should not accept more than is necessary for our healthy existence in this world. And then we will ask, well, how is that? Or what is the amount? What should we do? How much should we eat? So naturally that is there. And we want answers, but the answers will take time. Like everything good and everything wonderful, it takes some time to learn. What is that learning? It's not just learning rote knowledge, but it's to develop vigyan, realized knowledge, and to become experienced and to develop some wisdom. And usually it takes quite a while. We look to the old people for wisdom, isn't it? Because, yeah, when you're young, you run around and you're trying to figure it out and experience it through, we hear things and then we have to experience things. We try to know what to do in this situation, what to do in that situation. And our again, using the word existential position in this world, Prabhupada made very clear there's always some upheaval. Big upheaval, medium upheaval, small upheaval, always upheaval. It's always like that. I've mentioned many perfect example is the children, mother and father, they get used to have one child like that. And they get used to, oh yeah, no, we got it together. I won't go into all the details, but you get all the things organized to look after the child. But the amazing thing is the child's growing every day. And what you got together over the first 6 months is not quite what you need for the next 6, and the next year, and then the next stage. It's always upheaval. There's always something going on. This is the way. So it requires a cultured human society to learn, so that we learn from our brothers and sisters. We learn from our mother and father, our grandfather and grandmother. We learn from our cousins. We learn from our sadhus. We learn from the great acharyas. We learn from the shastras. The words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead given by the great sadhus, the great acharyas. And I've mentioned before that there only is 2 options, basically. Very simple thing, life, really, but very complicated in another way. One option is that we have no knowledge of the absolute truth. We don't know, and this is the materialistic outlook. There was some old ideas from the archaic past that offered that there was a God and that there was a purpose to life to serve God, and in brackets, possibly love God, but just to serve God like that. But we've been looking around for God for quite a while. Well, some people have, and we see that they've not found him. So there's no God, and we'll find out sometime in the future how it all came about, what it's all about, itself, how it came about, what it's all about, and what will happen after we leave this body. So that's one choice. Yeah, we haven't. Yep, that's the choice. And how are you going? The question is always there. How are you going with that outlook of life? The chaos is increasing daily. So on the other hand, the only other option is that there is ancient knowledge, Vedic wisdom. And these books that we're reading, Srimad Bhagavatam, are filled with knowledge and understanding and realizations of great personalities who have executed this path of bhakti, and they have overcome all the difficulties of life. Anarto pashamam shakshad bhakti yoga adhok saje lokasya janato vivam chakri satvata samhita. The miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this. Therefore, the great sage Vyas compiled this Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. So, simple verse right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, I think second canto, maybe first chapter, and it's giving the answer. And we see there's so many gatherings to try and discuss what is the answers to the problems, how to divide things up properly, but it's already stated clearly in the Bhagavatam how to do things, that the only panacea for the difficulties of living in the material world, all these difficulties are superfluous, the Bhagavatam says, to the living entity. We are not supposed to have to suffer old age, disease, birth and rebirth and death, and that is not the actual living being's swadharma or his that position. But it is to be freed from these things and to have the life of eternal bliss and knowledge that we're searching for. So Bhagavatam is straight away saying that all these difficulties which are superfluous can be mitigated by this linking process of devotional service, linking to the great souls, linking to the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, and that way understanding. And as I've already said, not understanding just the somewhat mystical aspect of our eternal existence in the transcendental world, but to understand how to live in this world in a way which will support a prosperous life, happy life, and connecting to that ultimate goal. So going further, the leaders have all become like thieves, Prabhupada says in text 7. The basic necessities of life, and I've written this in my little notes. So they've all become thieves. And Srila Prabhupada in that text talks about the basic necessities of life. And the basic necessities of life I wrote are not cars. That's a basic necessity, isn't it? IT devices of all shapes, sizes, and descriptions for all ages, from little kids to old people and in between. The movies, these are necessities of modern life. How could you live without the movies? Different sports. Wow, sport is such a big thing. Yeah, massive weapons of distraction. So we get caught very powerfully in that. There's so many sports. There's consumer products. Those are the necessities of life. And guess what? All the things that I mentioned are being generated from with the aim of sense gratification. They're all products of a materialistic civilization aimed at sense gratification. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. Bhagavatam says that when a person considers sense gratification to be the goal of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engage in, what does he do? He becomes mad after, and you think, well, fair enough, I'll just engage in materialistic living and then I'll just become mad, and fair enough, that's what I'm going to do. But by doing that, we engage in all kinds of, unknowingly, we engage in all kinds of sinful activities. Why? Because we've lost our discrimination completely, and we just mad after sense gratification. If some dangles a carrot or an advertisement or whatever it may be, we go for it. And we think, I just want sense gratification. Become mad for it. So we lose our intelligence and we engage in all kinds of sinful activities. And we don't realize that the body we're existing in now is due to our past sinful activities. And that if we continue in that way, we'll be awarded one material body after another. The Bhagavatam says, birth after birth, like that. Wow, what a difficulty. So the leaders have become like thieves. And I was hearing something about that. I'm trying to remember where it was. Yeah. Actually, it was to do, what was it? Why were we looking at that? I was looking at a short documentary on the potato farm. Sorry, not potato farm, potato famine. Something to do with Irish, somehow or other. Anyway, so we just looked at this little short clip of, it wasn't a clip, it was a short video of the history of the potato famine in Ireland for existence. And it showed the horrendous suffering. Millions of, I think it was about 1 million people died in Ireland. The population, directly died from it, and then so another few million fled from the country. This is just, this is one of the upheavals that happened back then. And there was because I think we were discussing how, there's such a lack of vegetables and fruits and flowers and stuff because of the cyclone thing, and everything's kind of smashed and the prices have gone up so much and there's not enough to eat practically. And then, I was talking to another man in a laundry. We went to do a laundry, and the man that was running it, he said, yes, the landlord wants to put the rent up, but I keep telling him the people can't afford to pay. If you put the rent, you want to put the rent up. And he was saying, well, you shouldn't put the rent up. He said, Then the landlord said, "Don't worry, you'll not pay it. Just pass it on to your users." And the guy, yeah. So that's the mood. Then the guy in the owner of the shop, he's saying the people can't afford to pay it, and so everyone's in a precarious position, and they become so back. So that's the current situation. And then back, whatever it was, 100 or 150, 200 years ago in Ireland, the crops failed, and then they failed again. And then the government leaders came in with their different ideas how to deal with this difficulty. The scientists checked the plants, and it goes on and on and on. And it was a complete debacle, so much so, I just noted in the little documentary that the Prime Minister of Britain, because Ireland was governed from Britain completely at that time, then they split Ireland after this into two. There's Northern and Southern Ireland, and that's an ongoing debacle also. So anyway, I forget his name. The Prime Minister at the time, maybe, I forget his name. He was very well known. Prime Minister of the UK at that time. Anyway, he apologized. This was like in 2000 or 2010 or whatever. It's such a debacle from the Irish potato famine, and it's caused so much difficulty. The connection between the UK and England and Ireland and stuff. So he felt on behalf of the government of the United Kingdom, we should apologize to the Irish people for the complete debacle of the people who tried to manipulate the situation, and it caused 1 million people to die and millions of people to flee the country. So this is when we abandon the way of Dharma, when we abandon the advice of the sadhus, when we're not able to hear from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-loving, all-caring Personality of Godhead, then we get ourselves in great difficulty. And Prabhupada, it says that the yagya for this age, as we all know, is the Sankirtan yagya in the age of Kali. And otherwise, Prabhupada mentioned in that verse that otherwise there will be scarcity. We have to perform yagya. There has to be yagya, sacrifice. Otherwise, nature, Mother Earth, will restrict, and due to the karmic reactions, will punish the living entities to try and rectify the mentality. In text 9 and 10, I'll just read a couple of notes. If intelligent men, or the Brahmanas, this is Prabhupada's purport, little bits from the purport, of society follow the rules and regulations, so he moves on to a slightly different point, connected completely. If they follow the rules and regulations set out by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, presented by the Acharyas, and Prabhupada says also, this means that they must follow the process of austerity. So this is a very pivotal aspect of human society. We're not interested so much in the performance of austerity. Why? Because we don't know what the result will be. If we just take austerity on its own for the sake of it, then who wants to do that? There has to be some benefit. So we have to be able to show people that if you perform certain austerities, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling, for example, and specifically those 4 things, that will be the austerity. And what will come about is a balanced society of prosperity, and we can show you how this can work. So they must follow. Then Prabhupada at the end of the purport says, the face of this present world would change. People would be happy and prosperous. So it's not that austerity, tapodevyam putra, what's that? Tapodevyam putraka yena sattvam sudyet yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. Brahma sokyam is the desire that we have. Sokyam is happiness. But this material happiness is no happiness at all. At best, we have a momentary cessation of the difficulties, the upheavals, the suffering, the ariboltic, aridaivic, ariakleshas have to be there. Miseries of the mind and body, miseries caused by other living entities, miseries caused by superior or supernatural control of the demigods and so on, upheavals of typhoons and floods and earthquakes and all the rest of it. Wow. And we're looking to become comfortable. We use the example of becoming comfortable on a cactus. So if you have to be forced to sit on a cactus, trying to get comfortable, it's very difficult, I would suggest. So this material world, we get a cessation of difficulty for a short or brief moment. We take that for happiness, but it brings us no satisfaction. Therefore, we go on in the desert of material life, thinking we can make some permanent arrangement. As we're doing that to find our happiness and satisfaction, every day passes and is lost, and we do not choose to serve the Lord of the heart. And again, we're forced to take birth again, and this goes on. So this is not what we are wanting for a successful life. We have to embrace voluntarily. We have to explain that this voluntary acceptance of some austerity is very intelligent, and it will bring great results. And slowly you can practice doing that. You slowly practice how to do that. And it will help us. Nayam deho deha pajamri loke kastan kaman arhutam vidbujamye tapodevyam putraka yena sadvam sudyed yasmad brahma sokyam tunantam. Lord Rishabh Dev is talking to his sons, and he says, this human form of life is not meant simply for sense gratification, which is available to the hogs and the dogs, but rather it is for the performance of penance and austerities by which one can attain the divine position of devotional service, which brings transcendental pleasure, which is, or spiritual happiness, which is transcendental to this material stuff. Brahma Sokyam, it's not temporary and it doesn't end. It's eternal, blissful life. So we can't pretend that for most of us, as we struggle across the desert of anartha-nivriti, it's described that stage of devotional service as the anartha-nivriti, trying to give up. And that's the process of austerity. I want sense gratification, but I know it's not so good, so I have to push on across the somewhat desert-like anartha-nivriti with firm determination, hearing from the acharyas that this is not where you will stay. Continue. Be successful. You may not be so successful. Then success, like that. Failure is the pillar of success. Continue. And guess what? The other stages, nishta and ashakti, attachment, and ultimately bhava and prema. That is the whole process. And I was listening yesterday, and often I think it was Vaisheshika Prabhu I was listening to him. I think he was saying like that, oh yes, he was. He's often, it was a gathering, he was speaking to the yatra that he was doing in Jagannath Puri this year, this month or last month. And he was saying there's so many people are here. Some have been devotees for 40, 50 more years, and some have just come along and they're virtually completely new. And he said often we see, so there's great enthusiasm and there's great benefit. The main point he was making, there's great benefit in the association of devotees. The older devotees can benefit from the younger ones. Because why? Often the young ones are so enthusiastic. They've got a little faith, and they get the association of devotees of the Lord, and they become very inspired, and they take up the process, and they see, this is good. I like this process. Hare Krishna, and they're out in Kirtan, and they're distributing books and doing all this stuff. And yeah, they're very enthused. So that enthusiasm is not artificial. Well, it may be to some extent, but it's also very real and tangible, because the whole process is full of bliss. The whole process of Krishna or God consciousness is completely blissful. So anyway, the point is that we can gain it. So, and then they get association of persons who have been at different stages in this whole process of devotional service. So this acceptance of voluntary austerity is very, very necessary. It is the wealth of the Brahmanas, and that certainly is we're all being trained, not specifically as Brahmanas, we're all being trained as Vaishnavas. One may have very great Brahminical qualities, that's another whole subject matter, isn't it? The 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. And for those Varnas and Ashramas to function properly, we should be praying to Krishna for, please bless me with a lack of pretension. Let me not pretend to be anything. Let me just recognize what meager abilities I may have. Let me try to utilize them in the devotee service, in Krishna's service. And let me try to make progress on this path and come to the point of working seriously to overcome the different anarthas, anartho pashamam shakshad, bhakti yoga, through the process of bhakti yoga. And they will be mitigated. That is through the linking process of devotional service. Utsahanasya daryat tat tat karma pravartanats. Yeah, like that. Utsahan, enthusiasm. So we need that enthusiasm. Especially, as we said, from the younger devotees, say, or the older devotees, the pure souls. You see their enthusiasm is matured, and it's very, very, it's like the young one is like, the young enthusiast is like an unripe mango, and the pure devotees are like ripe mangoes. So anyway, I don't know if that's so applicable, but anyway. So yeah, the utsahan, nischaya. So enthusiasm, and with confidence, we should carry that enthusiasm and be confident that we will reach the goal. Why? Because this is the words of the acharyas. This is Krishna's statements. Surrender unto me, I will deliver you. Don't fear. It's all everywhere in all the aspects. And so we should have confidence in our of where we're taking shelter, in our great personalities. We were so loving and so kind and so free from all this material things, and they're giving us the guidance. So we should be enthusiastic, we should be confident, but we have to be patient. We have to be patient. Oh, I'm going across the Shastra, the acharyas have explained this anartha-navriti stage is like a desert. So hey, don't drink too much of your water. It's quite a journey across the desert, so you have to learn how to negotiate all the pitfalls on the way. Don't run too fast, you'll run out of steam. Don't go too slow, you'll be out there too long. Isn't it? And then it says that we will come to the shore. We will come to the ocean of devotion more and more. So this is the idea of why we take up the austerity. We are disgusted, fed up, finished with this material happiness, so-called, and we want Brahma Sokyam. We want spiritual happiness, which is eternal and continues forever. And we submit ourselves humbly that I need a lot of purification. I'm full of lust, anger, and greed. I'm mad, I'm illusioned, and I'm envious. And when I check out the reality of my position, I find these things. So I've got a lot of purification, but let me be confident and let me be patient and continue so that I can be established in this Brahma Sokyam. And the other option, remember we gave the other option. The other option is a godless society, and it can never be successful. Noonam, see if I had anything else. What time do we got? I'm just trying to see what the time. Okay, so we'll be finishing, I would say, in about 3 or 4 minutes, and then if we have any reflections, it would be nice to have a couple of reflections. If anyone's there, I'd be happy to hear some reflections on these verses. The last point I'll make, the United Nations. Srila Prabhupada referred to the United Nations because in New York City, he would walk past that United Nations buildings quite often, regularly he was going past. And so you can just imagine Srila Prabhupada's spiritual intellect seeing such a building and then understanding what it actually means. He said, United Nations, there should be one flag, but each day there's another flag, another nation coming to be united. But Srila Prabhupada said there's no platform for unity. There's no platform for unity. The platform is to understand that we are all, that everything is owned and controlled by the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But unfortunately, we go, representatives from different nations go to talk about the United Nations, but their interest is, I'm interested in the people of, so-called, we're interested, but anyway, it's to bring the best for my people, the Chinese, my best, the people, the Russians, the Americans, the British, the Kiwis, the Australians, and this way, all these people come, but actually they are like thieves, and they're trying to make some agreement to divide all the, what is it called? All the, I can't remember the right word, all the booty, all the riches, and I'm trying to remember the word, but it doesn't matter. I'll get it in a second, maybe, or not. The resources, we'll use that, that's the word maybe. So here we are, they're all going to honestly, they're thieves, just like if you have a bunch of thieves, they go out and steal a whole lot of stuff, and they come back and somebody says, let's distribute this, let's divide it honestly. They're thieves, for goodness sakes. And that's the way. The United Nations, let us come together and divvy up whatever is there, push a bit that way, push that way. And we think that we're going to have united. The only platform of equality is on the spiritual platform. And we want unity all over the place. The man and the woman struggle. Oh, the man's in control, the women are exploited. The woman should get more freedom, so we give more freedom. And guess what? They get more exploited again and again and again. Again, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada noted all these things. He was looking at some billboards, and the ladies were being manipulated by the advertising campaign. And there was one billboard that said, "You've come a long way, baby." So that was referring to the ladies. And there was one woman being shown as smoking a cigarette. So that in that time, whenever it was the 60s, it wasn't very much that women would smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol so much. It was hardly known. Very little, very little. And you've come a long way, baby. And everyone laughed. I didn't see if it was a recording. I couldn't see if Prabhupada laughed, but that maybe he didn't. Maybe he cried. So you've come a long way, baby. So here you go. In this idea of dividing everything and non-exploitation and uniting, as we have the exploitation continuing further. And they gave the woman a slimmer cigarette. So the guy's one was a certain thickness and the woman's was a slim one. So again, the manipulation, it's terrible. And again, they're cheated. And so it goes on. So the only platform of unity and oneness is on the spiritual platform, where we are seeing that we are simultaneously one and different from that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's I'll just read this once more. Like thieves agreeing to divide what they have stolen fairly. It's simply a farce. But it's going on, and that's what is being experienced more and more and more as we go on. So we'll finish at that point. Excuse me. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. So if anyone has any reflection, something that piqued your hearing, or then we can share that. Or if there's any question, we can try.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So nicely explained, and started with the very basic words of Srimad Bhagavatam, that this knowledge of Bhagavatam distinguishes between the real knowledge and the illusion in which we are subjected to.
Yes.
And we are always thinking that in this illusion we will find a solution for a thing of our happiness, which we will never get it.
Did you say in this illusion we'll think we'll
yes,
find?
Yes.
Is that...
In this illusion, everybody is thinking they will find a solution of happiness.
Yes.
But they are trying hard for that, but they don't know that it will never come, like a mirage. It will be always eluding. And this happiness, as you have rightly concluded, that it is nothing but a cessation of temporary distress for the time being. And they think that is happiness.
You used a word which was it piqued my thoughts. I'll reflect on your reflection. You said mirage or mirage. So that again ties into what we were discussing, that this idea, it's simply a mirage in the desert. And we could use this example. We're trying to cross the desert of the anatana vritti to overcome these unwanted things by the process of bhakti. And they're trying to, they're chasing out into a desert, into chasing a mirage, and they go on and on and on. We know what happens if you go out to the desert and chase a mirage, you die. Yeah. You don't find what you thought was the water, it doesn't come.
And not only that, Prabhuji, it will also repeat the process of life after life. That means if we do not try in this life and utilize this life for the service of the Lord, or know that the Lord has created everything for us, and we can only make ourselves happy by approaching the Lord, or the way the Lord has decided for us. Follow the Lord's rule, and by following the Lord's rule as given to us by the acharyas in the disciplic succession, if we do not follow that, we will not only miss this life, but the next life as well, and always remain in the chain of birth and death and the old age, and all these things will go on repeatedly. And as you have told, the United Nations is also the place where the thieves are trying to make peace deal, a fair deal, but the thieves can never do that. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the nice class, and let the others express their opinion. And I've told a lot.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Yeah. So yeah. Wow, it's so powerful. This knowledge is so powerful. Wow, just hearing what you say and respond again, it just again, you've only got two choices, really, is it? We hear from the acharyas in Shastra, the Supreme Lord, and then the mind can say, oh, but I can't see God. You're talking about just hearing from the Lord, or who is. Again, then if you go into the philosophy, it will be presented to you very, excuse me, very well, that there is a process for seeing God. If you want to see the prime minister or president of a country, you can't just say, I want to see him. There's a process. You make an appointment with his secretary. if it's found that you're serious and you have some real purpose to see this, the prime, etc., then maybe something can be arranged. It's a very definite process. So this seeing God, Krishna says, here's how you see me. You can start, and through the whole Bhagavatam, he starts like that. See me in the universal form in the beginning. Then see me as super soul in the heart of every living entity. Gradually, he explains how we can get some idea of how to come to have this understanding of God. And in the Bhagavad Gita, whereas the essence of all these, everything is contained in Bhagavad Gita, he explains like that. Learn to see me as the fragrance in the earth, the taste in water, the light of the sun and the moon. And he's trying to, this is how you learn. This is the beginning. Seeing me face to face is the postgraduate PhD. The beginning is to learn. See me as a flower, see me in the fruits, see me in the taste of what you're eating, see me in so many ways. This is the process. See me as the Aksha Vigraha. That way you can, etc. So, yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Jaya Sila Prabhu. Thank you so much for your wonderful class and your great realizations as always.
Krishna,
we always look forward to those nice realizations from you, from your vast experience. And so, yeah, just one thing really struck me. You said today, actually, when we are avoiding the sense gratification, we are not doing anybody a favor. Actually, we're doing ourselves a favor by minimizing the sense gratification. It's like conserving our resources when we are crossing the desert of anartha nivritti, as you said. So, so we are doing ourselves a favor by not wasting our senses on the useless things. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
So the title of your reflection, I'm going to give a title to it called "Do Yourself a Favor."
And also the other point, what you mentioned about the United Nations, where the multiple flags are there and people are sitting around the table. It just reminded me of the Ashuras after they captured the pot of nectar, and then they all sat together as if they were all united and wanted to distribute the nectar among themselves. So yeah, it reminded me of that, the United Nations. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Well done. That was a great connection back to Shastra to connect that. That was really good. Well done.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hari Hari. So if there are no other reflections or questions, we'll count to 3 and then we can get on with all the things that we've got to do today. Hopefully trying to connect them to Krishna would be not a bad idea as a bit of a focus for the day. Okay, so I thank you for your association and the opportunity to discuss the Bhagavatam, and I speak for my self-purification completely, and thank you very much. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. His Grace Jaya Sila Prabhu ki Jai.
Hari Hari.